Today, we are very, very pleased to have someone coming on that is a heavyweight in the field of healing. Her name is Sister Abena Afreeka, and she's the creator of Racism Non-Anonymous, a revolutionary 12-step healing program for people of African descent. That's us, family, in case you didn't know, recovering from racialized and generational trauma. So we want to, without further ado, bring our good sister on. How you doing, my sister? Sister Abena, how are you?
Peace, peace, and black power. I'm good.
Now, I noticed that you refer to yourself as the traumatized traumatologist. Tell us what you mean by that. I thought that's very interesting.
It just simply means what it says. I have experienced significant trauma and I have studied significantly uh, trauma, victimization, perpetrators, and similar to a cardiologist, a gynecologist, any ologist is just the ologist is a study of what came before. So I have studied significantly the field of trauma and mental health, mental harm. And I have been traumatized. So I, I suppose it's like the cardiologist who has heart problems. He is both and a traumatized individual, meaning a person who has experienced significant trauma, which I have a 10 out of 10 on the ACE score. And I have done significant research and study to understanding what happened and how to address it. I think basically it's helped me in the sense that I have done the work to understand it and to begin the process myself to heal. And as a result, I learned to practice what I preach and teach. So I try it out and that I can share, the things that work. There's enough similarities amongst us as human beings that that is consistent. So it doesn't matter how a person's nervous system fires off, is going to fire off when certain things happen, period. And there may be different things happening for different people. The outcome is going to be the same. The nervous system is going to be shot. So the focus then becomes on the nervous system and understanding how that works and how that works with the body, the mind, body, spirit connection. The thing that drives the nervous system is the spirit. And the spirit is that spirit that you are, that enter your body on the day that you were born and begin to, once you are born, you begin to breathe and you begin to sense. And as you sense stuff, you begin to think. The mind begins to activate. And so they all work together, mind, body, spirit, directly and uniquely connected with what affects one affects the others. And so that is like just learning for myself what happened, what was wrong with me, quote unquote, and what happened to me and how to fix it. And then that gives me information and tools to share with other people. It's like, hey, here go the basics. This is the simple basics. Breathe, learn how to control the nervous system, learn how to take the nervous system and the mind, because those two are connected, off of automatic pilot and take active control of it.
When our people change our names, that is a significant action. And typically, it has to do with either a religious conversion or it may have to do with a cultural, wanting to get culturally connected to our motherland or to our history. Now, I noticed that for you to go from Joni to Sister Abena Afrika,
Africa.
that means you have some type of consciousness. Tell us about that. How did you get on the road to your political consciousness as a Black or African or New African woman?
Well, I, I suppose it was rooted in Malcolm X because I grew up in the 1960s. I was born in 1960, so I grew up through all of that. And those messages, I heard that voice, it stuck. And though I begin to really step into it and walk into it, and um, when I begin my treatment, my own mental health treatment, in my mid 20s, when crack hit the communities, um, I got caught up for all of 10 months, and I was able to get out of it and get my head back
Mm-hmm.
together and stay away from it. And during that process, I went into mental health hospitals, suicidal, and you know stuff. And as I began to heal, recover, and learn and understand myself from mental health treatment, when mental health programs worked, because I know I made it in just at the cut, just at the end of the late '80s. Because by the early '90s, the mental health system and the type of services and the ways they talk to you changed
Mm-hmm.
in a not so good way. So I kind of feel like I made it in just in time. And when I went back to school, and I started back to school, and went into mental health first, and then when I worked on my master's degree in social work, that's what really opened the door for me, because I went to Bryn Mawr, a traditional one of those seven sister schools, prominent with white folk up on the main line. Um, there were African American, um, the dean was black, Nancy, and other black scholars and teachers who introduced us to the National Association of Black Social Workers, because that's
Mm-hmm.
where it really got started, when I was introduced to the National Association of Black Social Workers and became active in that, going to conferences every year in the early '90s. That's when it started for me. Yeah, thinking about it, I had to talk through it for a minute. Yet, in during that time period, Black social workers, and going to those conferences and learning from all of those scholars, all of Jawanzo Kunjufo, the politician woman, that Maxine Waters. I mean, all of those scholars, all of the scholars that we know of who were prominent during that period, during the '90s, the '80s, and '90s. I had the opportunity to learn from and sit from and learn from. So that was the thing that really helped me, because while I'm at Bryn Mawr learning, the mental health stuff, I'm also pairing it and balancing it with what I'm getting from Black social workers and Black scholars.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was never a separation for me. I'm not. I'm an integrationist, I suppose, in some way. I'm an integrationist in a not in a way that is used, not in a way,
That's good.
yet more internal
Right.
integration,
That you can
to
take the
put in the
Europeans'
pieces.
frameworks, you
Mhm.
can take their frameworks and our frameworks and find meaning in both.
And I see the truth. Yeah, because their framework, I mean, like, their frameworks came from us anyway. And that's the one thing I would always kind of try to put out there when I would get shut down in the movements, because there was a period nobody want to hear what I'm saying. I don't want to hear it,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm asking you and I'm reflecting you to you. I become a mirror, and people have a hard time seeing themselves. They don't want
Mm-hmm.
to look at themselves. They're much more comfortable with the two eyes that look outside, as opposed to learning how to close those two eyes, breathe, and allow that third eye to open, because that third eye looks inside. It looks at the
Mm-hmm.
self. And that's where people stop. They freeze and they don't want to look at themselves. And so when I would speak or talk in the various groups over the last 30 years, 35 years, 30 years, they didn't want it. They didn't want to hear it. Yet I'm like, well, we know everything that white people know and teach, they got from us. They stole from us everything. Why not this stuff too? Why is
Mhm.
this stuff considered, oh, it's just theirs? They got it from us. They just twisted it up and jacked it up.
Right, right. And plus, truth is truth. I was taught that truth is truth. Whoever says it and wherever you get it from, if it's true, it's true, right? If it's
Right.
relevant, yeah. I feel you on that, my sister. I feel you on that.
However, the message has been that I've received in the communities, in the conscious communities, the conscious organizations, and I've traveled through many of them. The message has always been the same. We don't want that. We don't want that. That's the
Yeah,
white man stuff. That's the mental health. That's it's like okay, okay,
yeah. See, that's a whole show. See that what you just said, that's a whole broadcast in and of itself because everybody bears witness to Brother Malcolm. Nobody in the movement has a bad thing to say about Malcolm. But when you look at the books he read in prison and the books he read outside, he read very widely. He read white authors and that dealt
mm,
with theology, psychiatry, psychology, oh, very wide. And that's one of
right,
the reasons he was so powerful was that he had
mm,
a wide pool of references. He didn't limit himself to, I'm just going to read black authors. Like that's kind of to me backwards.
right,
That's you want to know the truth wherever the truth is. That's what
right,
scholars are supposed to do. So
right,
I feel you on that, and I've seen that same thinking, and then wherever I see it, I try to demolish it because that's just a form of anti-intellectualism. We can't have that. We got to seek truth. And the other thing is, black people are the first. That's a fact. Africans,
right,
but we're not the only people on the planet. There's other people on the planet who were brilliant too, and who
mm,
contributed, who studied, and we shouldn't, allow our ideology to kind of truncate us from the knowledge. So
right,
I feel you on that. Now
right.
I noticed you have a program called Racism Non-Anonymous or RNA, and you help people kind of reclaim their identity and voice. I'm curious to know what are the common emotional or let's say psychological problems you see in our people that are suffering from racialized trauma.
So where do I start with that? What do I see? That the shit has hit the fan. It's flying all over the place. The shit is the deep emotional wounds that we carry, that people carry in their spirit, those deep emotional wounds that were caused from some human intentionally hurting you. And that is traumatic stress of the human intentional type. And that is the shit. That's the acronym. It's an appropriate acronym. It's like when I saw it, I'm like, look at that. That's the shit. And the shit has hit the fan, and people are full of shit. Stress of the human intentional type. They have deep emotional wounds. Those deep emotional wounds, however, show up in what we say and what we do. Physical wounds show up on the body. We can see that externally. However, deep emotional wounds are internal. They're in the spirit and they're in the mind. And that's how they show up in what we say and what we do. And people say and do some shitty things. And the thing is, people have said it. We say it all, and people say it all the time. What kind of shit is that? Why would they do that shit? Why would you do that? How would you think some shit like that? Where that shit come from? People say it all the time. And where does it come from? It comes from those deep emotional wounds, trauma, traumatic stress, starting in childhood that has started for all of us, first and foremost, from a racialized perspective, being born black, as a black American, as an African American, a melanated being, you gonna get a whole shitload of shit dumped on you right away. And you grow up learning, hearing shit about yourself, about your family, seeing shit happen, and it's to the point now where it impacts the nervous system. I usually, when I talk in therapy, I use the bottle as an analogy. The bottle is the body, the water is the spirit. Our spirit lives in the cerebral spinal fluid that flows through us, our whole system. That's the spirit. Is water. It is liquid. It's, and when you drop some shit in there, that becomes the wounds, and the spirit gets congested and it gets clogged up and it gets shooken up, with stress and anxiety and loss and injustices. It gets stirred up. You're going to naturally, the spirit's natural response to acts of injustice is anger. The spirit's response to loss is sadness. The spirit's response to danger, real or perceived, is anxiety or fear. What's that? Oh no, what's that? Oh, I lost my money. Oh man, I can't find this. And why would you do that? What are these doing? Don't do that. That's the spirit's natural response. However, we have been taught to suppress it. To suppress it. And so you keep suppressing it and you keep suppressing it, and you keep growing up and you keep filling it up. And to the point now where people's nervous systems are just shot and people don't even know how to control it, contain it, manage it. Managing the emotions, the energy that moves, energy in motion. That's emotion. The spirit's
Mm.
movement, signaling what's happening, giving you information. Feelings are our friends, I say. They give us information about what's happening, what we are perceiving, what we're sensing, what we're seeing, what we're smelling. However, we don't understand that because feelings have been marginalized and demonized. Feelings. So if you mind, body, spirit, thought, feeling, behavior. When you remove what's in the middle, the other two are going to collapse on each other. And that's what's
Okay.
happened. And that's what people are. That's what I see. And the people are full of shit, and they just say, and it comes out in what we say and what we do. And we
Mm.
say things all the time because we've been programmed. We've been programmed to say. We've been programmed to gaslight, and that's what's how I see what's been happening and what's the sickness in this. Like, people had to learn how to breathe first. Slow down. Slow yourself down. You can take control. Take your mind and your in spirit off of autopilot and take active control before you can put it back on autopilot. But you have to take it off of autopilot. Every plane, every boat goes through a turmoil, changing winds, and it gets shooken up. And when you're shooken up, when you find yourself in a situation where your boat is or your plane is riding, however you frame yourself, you learn to, first and foremost, you have to calm down and breathe. You have to catch your breath, and that's you do that when you're drowning. And if you're drowning in water, the thing to do is to not panic. You want to calm, breathe, calm, simple, yet it's some work, especially when you haven't done it or thought to do it, because we don't think about doing it. However, it's conscious time. It's time to get conscious. So you consciously breathe. You consciously talk to yourself. That makes sense.
Yes. I'm getting a good understanding. I appreciate it. Once again, we're here with our sister Abena Afreeka. She is
Africa, Africa,
Africa. Okay. Africa.
Africa. Like
I get that.
Africa, Africa,
Okay.
Africa.
Yes, thank you. She's here with us. She's been putting in work, family, for across decades to help us heal. It seems like many of our people normalize pain. It's almost like, oh, we got to survive. We almost, I want to say, we almost brag about it. Oh yeah, I went through this and I held it. I didn't tell nobody. I had to deal with it. I had to suck it up. I had to. And I'm curious to know, how do we begin to recognize the difference between coping versus healing when we're dealing with this kind of a trauma intergenerationally? Some people cope, but coping doesn't always mean that we're healing, right? Is that accurate?
That's true. That's true. That's true because that's what we've learned to quote unquote cope. That's surviving. And in so doing, what you have to do is begin to bury the parts of the self that experienced the trauma. That part. So because when we experience trauma and traumatic stress, traumatizing situations, the spirit shuts down. The spirit moves in order for the mind and the body to get to safety. So the spirit moves out of the way. Now, the thing is, after the event, you want to bring it back into play and express it. And that's where the work stops because people are don't want to bring it back. They don't want to remember. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to remember it. They bury that part of themselves away. And they're not aware of those parts. They are still very active in the background, in the unconscious, is what's called the unconscious mind. And those parts live in the unconscious mind. However, they influence and they do continue to influence current decisions based on what happened. And based on that part, they're saying, hey, don't do that. The different voices, different thoughts start to come up and we will bury them. So you're burying them and you're just stockpiling shit. You're stockpiling shit. And you'll find out once it explodes. And so I that's the difference between coping and healing, and maybe just teaching people and breaking it down in the way that I break it down will help them to consider, what parts of myself have I hidden from myself? What parts of myself do I not allow to be expressed? And typically it's the pain, it's the painful, and it's the anger. We store anger and pain, hurt. We store that, and we store anxiety, fear-based stuff, because you cannot allow to be afraid. That means you're a wimp. That means you're this and all that BS. You're not allowed to feel sad or cry because that means you're a crybaby and you're all this other shit. Excuse my, but shit, I'm normalizing it because it's stress of the human intentional type. And anger, we are allowed anger, yet it has to be controlled. you know. So it's three out of the four basic feelings we don't want. We are afraid. We marginalize. We minimize. We push aside, and those are the parts that we are full of. All these deep emotional wounds that they cannot heal unless you reveal it. You cannot heal something that you're hiding from yourself. If you deny that the leg is broken, you still gonna have problems. You're not gonna get a cast. You're not gonna do anything to heal it if you deny that it's hurt. And that's the saddest thing, because people have been denying the hurt with the coping. Oh, I went through that and look at how I turned out. And I just feel like, that's what I'm saying. Look at yourself. Look at yourself. But see, that's what people won't do. They have a hard time looking at themselves and taking responsibility. And that's what RNA is about. Racism Not Anonymous. Malcolm X said it. He said it in 1964. He said we need a self-help program.
That's right.
He said we need a
Right.
self-help program. And that self-help program is here. Racism Non-Anonymous, that revolutionary 12-step self-help program that has been uniquely designed with you and me, the African, in mind. Designed to support our healing and recovering from
It, mhm.
the shit. Cultural trauma. The step one, acknowledge. Step one acknowledges we live in a world where white supremacy has been the primary ideological belief system, and we have been programmed into it. As a result, our African lives are unmanageable.
Hmm.
And until
Okay.
unless and until people take that first step and admit you've been programmed to self-destruct, we program to think just like them and behave just like them, and we keep screwing ourselves up just like them.
Hmm.
And people
Um,
refuse to look at yourself and look at how it's showing up in your mind and your thinking, and stop acting like it didn't happen. You born black in America, you born, don't matter where you born black at, just for the record. And then that's the other thing. It doesn't matter where you born black at. If you're born black, you're gonna get shit dumped on you. And shit starts at the societal level. When you
Now,
see some shit, people gotta tell you, don't cry over spilt milk. Stop crying over spilt milk. I'm like, well, who keeps spilling the damn milk? Nobody got time to be cleaning up milk. Who keeps spilling it? I want to see where's the hand that's spilling it first, and stop that.
mhm. Right, right.
That
Now,
to me seems kind of simple, yet people say, "Oh,
so you mentioned you've gone through your stuff. You've mentioned that you've dealt with people going through stuff. As you see it, what are the top, I don't know, 3 to 5 areas where we seem to be hurting the most? Like, so we said anxiety, you said anger. What are some of the things you see
So
most out
the
of our
yeah, it
community?
carried depression, just the depression and anxiety, and the communication, the gaslighting, the communication.
For those who don't know, could you briefly define gaslighting for people as well?
Gaslight. How do I define gaslighting? See, and
Or give us an example that might happen in real life.
gaslighting it mostly to you, and it's usually this. So as a communication coach, I think about word sound has power. The smallest words that we use hold the most power also. So first thing is you this, you wrong, you need to think about this, why you do that, you pointing the finger, never looking at them other ones pointing back at you. Anytime somebody coming at you with, well, you need to stop. If I didn't ask you what I need, don't tell me what I need to first. And
Hmm.
that and people get so offended and hurt when you set limits like that.
Hmm.
I was just trying to help. Okay, but I didn't ask for help. Or what would ask me what will help? Ask me what will help first. But we don't think like that. We just
Hmm.
give. We just do. We just give. I was just helping. I'm just giving you. I'm just telling you. But I didn't ask you to tell me. I didn't
Is
ask
that
for
a
that.
form of being controlling? Is that another thing we struggle with?
It is all about control. It's all about power and control. That is this world's primary addiction. The
Hmm.
Europeans' addiction is to power and control. And just like the disease of addiction, um, it's a family illness. Number one, everybody is affected, and as a human family, we're all affected by their disease to addiction to power and control, and we have all become highly codependent,
Hmm.
developing our own behaviors to support and continue to enable the addicts and continue to behave like the addicts. It's like the alcoholic family where the one partner was the drinker and the next partner began to drink to just to socialize and interact. So they start to drink and that's how it works. And patriarchy, the way it works, patriarchy, males, white males addicted to power and control, black males and other males want power and control too, because that's the man thing. Man supposed to be in charge and power and control. It's like, so if that makes any sense. So that's the gaslighting, and that was all part of a program. It came out of that MK Ultra
Mm-hmm.
programming. 1944, the movie came out, Gaslighting. The Gaslight, it was a movie, came out in 1944. And from that time on, from the late 40s, 50s, and early 60s and 70s, is how they begin to program it into our minds, probably through TV shows, cartoons, and like that. That how you get programmed to think a certain way and to question. And then we were taught to compete with each other. And that started happening in the late 50s, between the 50s and the 70s. Everything was about competing, competition in school, competition. So that just began to, it's just set, this is just lining us up like dominoes. And then in the 80s, they cracked us through the
For
crack
sure.
in there and
Yep. In the
cracked us up,
70s, they
cracked the
doped us up,
community up.
made us dopes. That dope was serious.
And so, yeah, and right. Right. And then, of course, you depressed us first during the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. You had this lockdown when you locked down, the civil rights fight, the 70s, 60s, and 70s, all of that activity for our growth got shut down. And you depressed us. And then you gave us a stimulant to pick us up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So of course you introduce that stimulant to a whole group of people that's depressed, and you give them something that's going to pick them up and make them feel good. Hey, we're going to keep doing that because that's what we're trying to wake up,
Mm-hmm.
to energize the spirit. And they knew it. They had a plan. It was intentional. That's the shit, because it was intentional. It was intentional. It's always been intentional. And it's always been stress of the human intentional type, traumatic stress of the human intentional type, TSHIT.
Now, one of the things that impressed me, that struck me about you when I was checking out your background, is that we often have people who highlight the problems, make a whole living off of highlighting our problems. But then you have people who actually do the deeper, more profound work of helping us to heal or to eliminate those problems. And so you have created a 12-step sort of program. Could you, if you don't mind, briefly take us through those 12 steps as you help us heal from this racialized trauma?
Well, let me see. I don't even know if I can say the 12 steps myself yet. The book is gonna be out in print soon.
Ah, okay, okay.
The book is
Nice.
going to be out in print. So, like I said, the first it's very similar. It's very, I would say this is very similar to traditional 12-step programs. However, it's revolutionary in the fact that it's non-anonymous. It's because racism in our life is not a secret.
Mm,
And that's why the program is non-anonymous versus the anonymous programs. AANACA, they're all anonymous. It's a
mm-hmm,
secret. Racism, not a secret. And we are as sick as our secrets. So we're not going to be keeping secrets. Racism,
mm-hmm,
non-anonymous. 12 steps, very similar to the 12 steps of other traditional programs, only the focus is on racism as the addiction. What we're
mm-hmm,
addicted to is this culture, this false cultural story that we've been living,
mm-hmm,
and we're currently hooked on it. And that's
mm,
why people don't want to change. They don't want to think about certain things in a certain way, because that could cause you to change. That might cause you to stir up what you got in there currently. And people don't want to stir it up yet. In order to heal it, you have to stir it up. You have to look at it. And
mm-hmm,
that's what the steps are designed to take you through, to help you to look at it one step at a time, and to begin to become open to learning more about your original cultural story.
mm-hmm.
And That's what it's about, to talk about, and to have a meeting just like AA, NA, except for, again, it's non-anonymous, and we share our experience, strength, and plans, different from traditional 12-step programs which talk about experience, strength, and hope. So we're not dealing with no hope. We special people. We deal with ESP, experience, strength, and plan. What's the plan? What we're gonna do? What can you do different?
As you see it, what role do our families, our churches, and our what else would I say? Family churches, our other community
And
institutions
communities,
play in our being sick?
they pay everything. Shit flows down, right? The law of physics, I guess it would be, teaches us that shit flows down, and it starts, well, markers. I try to. I'm learning. I'm trying to learn.
That's
And
okay. I'll put something up when you're going through this. I'll have something that shows on the screen.
oh, all right. Because if I can't find the right black marker, just so that I can even show you um, what it means, and this is what I call a pole. A pole, Abena's paradigm of lived experiences. And that says we start off on the spiritual level, right? We come down here into this individual body. We grow up part of a family that creates communities, that creates a broader society. And when we stop breathing, when it's all said and done, we return to where we came from. So you live your life here in the middle: society, community, family, down to your individual life. Now, you ask me what role family, community play in it. Well, if it's true that shit flows down and you find yourself in a pile of shit, you want to look up to see where it came from. It's coming from your family, that came from the community, and societal. But the societal triggers and it filters. And so, and that's how you get it on the individual level. And if that makes sense.
Sounds like it's important to acknowledge that not just our external enemies that we know, but our own families, institutions, and even organizations that are presumably working to help to some degree might be complicit in the very thing that we're trying to fight, correct?
True. And that's the problem. That's part of the problem, because they are complicit, and people are complicit, especially when they refuse to look at themselves and think about what they're doing, think about what they're saying. How, the world teaches people, I'm just doing my job. And it's wrong. You're hurting people. It's hurtful. It's wrong. However, you're still going to do it because it's just your job. So, people make up institutions. People make decisions that drive institutions. It's the people, and the people making the decision. So, you can't chalk it up. Oh, this just the government. Well, who are the government made up of? Except for individual people who are thinking and behaving in some pretty nasty ways.
Hmm. For sure, for
And they
sure.
teach in the societal level activities, school, it's mandatory. Entertainment, TV stuff is mandatory. It all starts up there, and it just filters down. It filters down
Mm.
through the minds and behaviors of the people. And they teach you when you're born. Your family is the first line of defense, so to speak. However, if they are full of nasty shit, and then when I work with folks, I do what we call a genogram in family therapy. A genogram is like creating a map of the family, whereby you trace your generations across 3 generations, start from your grandparents, your parents, and yourself and your siblings, and you begin to see the patterns of behavior and how they're passed down generationally. You come from a family of quote unquote alcoholics. You come from a family where sexual assault or sexual abuse was prevalent. You come from a family where, many families have been separated through foster care, and that goes on for 3 or 4 generations where children are always being separated. But that becomes the family legacy that they carrying from slavery, that they're still carrying from slavery. Yet those generations before ours really would not get mental health treatment. And there's a very valid reason for that. And I think I talk about that in the book. There's a very valid reason. It makes sense why we didn't want them fucking in our heads, number one. A. And two, when you were identified as having a mental health issue, they put you in an asylum, and that lasted for your life. So nobody ever want to admit having any kind of mental health issues, because that will get you locked up for life.
Right. Brother Malcolm's mother, if I'm correct, he said he didn't go back and get her until he was a nationally known leader. And she'd been in there since he was a kid.
Right,
I
right,
think he said about 27, I think 27 years she was in that place.
right. Because that's how
Yeah.
that's how they did.
Uh-huh.
They locked you up for life and drugged you up, and then they did all these little experiments and stuff behind closed doors. And those are the legacies that we are continuing to live. However, um, there are individual spirits that come through every family line that is a highly spiritual, a highly sensitive spirit. The child is very curious, that asks questions, that challenges shit. That's the child that is there to begin to break the cycle. However, those children are shut down very early on. They call
Mm-hmm.
it nipping it in the bud, so they don't let it grow. They nip it. They nip that spirit, and that's what gaslighting does. See, and it's like it's interesting the terms a gaslight, because you think, what is a gaslight? It's like a lighter, a gaslight, and you go set somebody on fire. You're gonna know they're gonna make them angry.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be angry when you gaslight somebody. Oh, shut up. Oh, don't ask the question. Oh, you too sensitive. Oh, you too this. You. And so people grow up feeling and thinking, I'm bad. I'm not good enough. I need to work harder. I should be able to. And that starts to play, and that tape, that's what starts to destroy the spirit.
Mm-hmm. That's why I gotta give us a pat on the back. Our ancestors were very clear about this one thing in particular. Now, the Greeks took it and stole it, and now it's known the doctors and the nurses take the Hippocratic oath. But we know Imhotep actually said, do no harm. And we know that doing no harm was part of Maya. If you go through those 42 negative confessions, I didn't
Right,
make anybody cry. I didn't steal food. I didn't poison the water.
right,
All of those things are about we knew that causing harm to people and the environment was a no-no. So
right,
that seemed like a good place to start. Like if this society were like that, maybe we wouldn't have all these mental illnesses,
right. Bottom
right?
line, and it's kind of simple. That's why they say they teach us recovery is a simple program for complicated people, and that's what they say in AA, in the rooms of AA. I say in the rooms of RNA, it's a simple program for complicated situations, and the situation we in is extremely complicated. It's not
Mm-hmm.
the people. We the people are not complicated, but we in a complicated situation.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Yeah.
I know you have the book forthcoming. Give us the name of the book again. I'm going to show the book when I
The,
edit it.
Malcolm's mandate. That was his mandate. Malcolm's mandate. Racism non-anonymous, and he gave that mandate when he told us we needed a self-help program, and he said that in the Ballad or the Bullet, in his speech, the Ballad or the Bullet, back in 1964.
Mm-hmm.
He said the
And see, that
government has failed
coincides with
us.
where we're coming from. When we say our greeting, Wukusu, That's wake up, clean up, stand up. But he said we got to do three things. We got to wake up our consciousness, and we got to clean up.
And
And
you
that
got
goes
clean
right
up.
in line with what you're
Clean up
saying.
the shit. Clean up.
That's
That's
right.
what I'm here. That's what I'm the mommy. It's time to clean. It's like, come on, it's time to clean up this shit. This shit is the stress of the human intentional type. That's clean up them deep emotional wounds. And that's the
Hmm.
healing. And that's the recovery. The recovery. Recovering your original spirit that came, that original spirit that got dumped, or a bunch of shit dumped on it, shit dumped on them. They
Hmm.
clean that shit off so you can see yourself.
Mm.
That's all. It's kind of simple like that.
Got you.
And I can help people get there and give you the tools. You know, 4 to 8 sessions, maybe 16 sessions for some people, because some are sicker than others, so to speak. You know, it
Hmm.
might take a little longer to get a grip on that nervous system and learn how to catch, challenge, and change your thoughts. Learn how to listen to yourself and think about what you're thinking.
Now, I don't. We don't want to give up too much of what the forthcoming book is going to reveal to the community. But could you give us a few? I want people to leave here with an idea if they're going through stuff, and they probably are, or they know somebody going through stuff, and they probably are. What are some things, a few daily practices, either mental, emotional, or spiritual, that our people can use to protect our peace and start building resilience in a society that, as you know, doesn't value us too much?
Well, first things first, life begins and ends with the breath. So it becomes crucial to learn to take control of your breath. Mindful breathing practice, I encourage and I prescribe. The only thing I can prescribe, I prescribe a mindfulness exercise. 3 slow, deep breaths at the start of your day, and take 3 slow, deep breaths at the end of your day. And then I encourage to use it PRN, that is, as needed, throughout the day. And it's a simple breathing exercise. It's called box breathing,
Hmm.
because box breathing, as I understand it, is the quickest way to tap into your parasympathetic nervous system. Because the nervous system is made of 2 parts. The sympathetic, which is the automatic part, is always active. It's always active. The parasympathetic is the calming part of our nervous system. In order to tap into it, you have to take control of your breath. 4, 4, 4, and 4. Breathe in for 4, a count of 4. Hold it for a count of 4. Release it through the lips for a count of 4. And hold it out for a count of 4. That's a box breathing. Take 3 slow, deep breaths, box breaths in the morning, 3 slow, deep box breaths in the evening, and PRN throughout the day. Just practice taking control, making that and that's hard work. May take people a couple of weeks to remember it, because you're not going to remember, because you're so used to breathing automatically. You're not used to taking it off of autopilot. So that's the first thing, and that's the strongest thing I can stress. Learn how to regulate your nervous system and take active control of it. When you take control of your nervous system and you breathe, you slow down the thoughts. So I usually tell people, because our minds become like a sandstorm when shit happens. You got all kind of thoughts. They should do this, I need to do that, and I got to do that, and this is this, and like to get everybody to shut up and sit down. Everybody had to shut up and sit down. And the way to get them to shut up and sit down is to breathe. Take control of the breath. You take control of the mind. So as the thoughts sit down, shut up, then you can take conscious control over which thought you choose to entertain, which thoughts need to wait, what you need to focus on now. And you can begin to take active, conscious control over your thoughts. That's how you get them to calm down when the anxiety and the thoughts and the anxiety shows up in the thoughts, and I can't, and I got to do this, and I got to move, and I got to move. And then the other thing I tell people, it's like, we use these terms. Oh, I'm not doing nothing. Oh, you ain't do nothing. I ain't do nothing all day. All right, no, you're always doing something. If even when you're quote unquote doing nothing, what you're doing is resting the body. Can you think about the body? The body that needs to just quote unquote rest. I'm resting my body. I encourage you. I never say I'm doing nothing. You're always doing something. You're resting the body. You're resting your mind. Even if you're going to zone out on a TV show, you are relaxing the internal and just letting it shit rest for a bit. And that's okay. And be okay with that. Yet we are not okay with that because we are programmed to run. We are always supposed to be doing something. You need to be doing this. Now you need to do that. Now you need to do that. Like, you're running yourself ragged. We be running ourselves ragged and wonder why when you get 40 and 50 and 60, shit start breaking down terribly. Because you've been running, you're not been you're not paying attention. Tune in to the body. You can tune in to the body. You can breathe energy, life into pain, in the parts of pain. Where there's pain, where there's tension. You can go to that part and communicate with it. What do you need? What do you need? This muscle tight. What do you need? Some ice, some heat, and rest and tune in to yourself and begin to learn how to tune out. Develop healthy boundaries. No is a complete sentence. And I would say it's okay to quote unquote be quote unquote selfish, because that's been twisted up. If you do for yourself, when you say no, when you set limits, then you're quote unquote being selfish, as if you're not supposed to look out for yourself first. Mm-hmm. So those are first three things. If that helps, in the book, in the steps, there are lots of exercises to do behind, that follows each step, and exercises, things to think about and things to do. So yet the basics in terms of the therapeutic tools, we start with that first. Learning how to take control of your spirit and your mind. Calm the spirit, you calm the mind, and then you take control and you deprogram and reprogram. It's deprogramming and reprogramming the self, the spirit that lives within.
I like to know, what is pushing you to do this very important work, and what is it that you want your legacy to be in doing this work?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm not even sure that I have a answer. To think on that, what does push me to do this work? It's just what I don't know, what I know to do. I suppose it's the gift. It's a gift. I don't know. I don't know. I can't. That's it. You stuck. Good. Got stumped on that. What pushes me to do this work? It needs to be done. It needs to be done. It needs to be said. I grew up. I just think it's driven from my childhood life and my childhood experiences. I know that I am. See, that's why it gets hard to acknowledge. It gets hard to say good things about yourself or positive things yet. But I think that I am a very unique spirit. I know that I have some very unique spiritual gifts. I am a very highly empathic, and it's just been programmed in me to do the right thing. Growing up in the 60s and listening to Malcolm, I think that really impressed me. And, the journey between Malcolm, Kennedy, Martin, and then the Black Panther Party, and the things that happened and the things that I grew up witnessing and experiencing. It just was like, it's just a normal, natural thing for me. It's just my spiritual gift. It's my purpose for. I just see it's my purpose for being here because I've stayed with it. Uh, I've stuck with it through a lot of all the stuff that you mentioned, being ostracized and having that happen, starting on the family level. That 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 shit. And it's like, it's what I've been committed to. And I when I created RNA, or developed that concept of racism non-anonymous, through going through treatment programs and helping people through treatment programs, myself, and I came up with Racism Non-Anonymous as the name of the program. I had not remembered or recalled hearing Malcolm X say that we needed a self-help program. I didn't hear that until I listened to the Ballad of the Bullet speech some years after I developed Racism Non-Anonymous. And then I heard that, and I'm like, oh, look at that. Look at that.
Yes.
I got it. So that's how
Mhm.
this, and so it's always been in my spirit. It's just to do that, and
Mhm.
to it's what I know to do. It's just a spiritual gift as I see it. It's my purpose. It's clearly my purpose, because, like, what else? I've lost this, I've lost that, I've lost it. What else am I do? I still got this knowledge, I still got this information. So what else do I do with it except for share? We keep what we have by giving it away. So
Mm. I like
I
that.
practice, and practicing those principles and those teaching. So I'm one to practice what I preach and teach, and I practice what I learned.
Mhm.
Um, I honored it. I embraced it, the culture, knowing. I guess I knew from the door. I knew since I was 8 years old, or very young. I would say things that people
Well,
said was too deep, and so just the spirit that I am.
well, we are glad that you tapped into those gifts and that spirit, and put forth decades of work on our behalf. We know oftentimes it is thankless work. It is work people fight and resist and get years later. But you're part of a great lineage of people who saw beauty in us and wanted us to see beauty in ourselves, and you work to help us to get where we need to be. So we thank you. Don't want you to be a stranger. Certainly, when the book is coming out, we'd love to have you on to maybe help talk about it and
Mm.
to promote the book.
Well, I'll just close with how I used to open. Just remember that I am Abena Afreeka, the recovering African who is culturally enslaved here in America, Kaka. And I am a representative from the voices in the margins, true to the cause of African liberation via unification, utilizing the tool of healthy and effective communications. I am a traumatized traumatologist, trauma queen, and queen of trauma. And that is understanding trauma and traumatic stress, what it is, and how it has and continues to work in the lives of African descendants. And I come standing on this revolutionary 12-step self help program that has been uniquely designed with you and me, the African, in mind, designed to support our healing and recovery from the cultural enslavement that we are living under. And so that's who I am. I can't tell you where to follow me or where to find me. I'm Traumatized Traumatologist on Facebook. I'm Abena Afreeka on Facebook. I have a Afreeka Live YouTube channel. I have an Instagram, the Third Eye Insights. That just speaks to the level of traumatization that I have going on. All the different parts of me over here, a little bit over here, a little bit over here. Like I can't get it all together. You know. However, what I keep together is my spirit and openness to drawing those other chosen ones. Those are the chosen ones. Those are the ones that come to me. They're the chosen ones in their family generation who are experiencing, you know, a bunch of stuff. And those are the people who get the most help.
Mhm.
Those who seek it and ask for it.
That's right.
I am honored. I am thankful, and I am very highly honored to have been considered, to have been discovered out there on
Please.
the internet streets.
Absolutely. That's what we do, man. We're trying to highlight our people that's trying to get us right, you know? We got to do that.